I made a video a couple of days ago about Dillian Whyte, what he should do next, what his next steps might be, just speculating really on the next move he's going to make in his career, and what prompted me to make that video was when he commented on the lowball offer that he perceives to be a lowball offer anyway, made to him via Team Joshua to fight Joshua in April. Now, things have moved on a little bit since then, because after I made that video, Dillian Whyte turned up in the States, and he's not in the States for the Matchroom card that happened last night. So he's not in New York. He's in Vegas, I believe, where the Pacquiao and Broner fight is taking place tonight, Saturday. And in that process, he's been talking to a lot of the online kind of media outlets out there, discussing his current position. He's been making it known that he's a free agent. He's not he's not contractually aligned with Matchroom or Eddie Hearn. He's free to discuss business and his kind of next steps with all promoters out there. And off the back of that, we've seen Frank Warren also comment about the situation and invite Dillian Whyte to meet with him and discuss what I suppose Queensbury or Frank Warren can do for Dillian and his career. So I just want to share some thoughts on what's going on with this at the moment, because Dillian Whyte, majority of his professional career, or actually not maybe majority, but basically the most important part of his professional career since he's become a household name here in the UK, since he fought Joshua the first time, and beyond that, he's headlined, is it two pay-per-views, so three including the Joshua fight, and then after that he fought Joseph Parker and then Chisora most recently on pay-per-view, with him being the headline attraction. So yeah, so I'm gonna put a link to my original video about Dillian Whyte in the description, just so you can see what I kind of said then, because what I did was I broke down the pros and cons of him jumping ship and joining Al Heyman, or going to Frank Warren, or staying with Eddie Hearn. So I'm not going to make this a long one, because a lot of the stuff that I said then still applies today. It's only been 2 or 3 days. But the only thing that I wanted to add to what I said back then was I didn't expect Dillian Whyte to be so forward and so proactive in being a in him kind of putting out the message that he's a free agent and he's free to talk to other people. Now, this can be kind of seen in two ways. One, he's kind of saying to Eddie Hearn, he's giving him a thinly veiled message that I'm not going to stick around if you're not going to treat me the way I believe I should be treated. I do have other options, and I can go elsewhere, and I'm going to explore those other options. And so I suppose that's what his thought process is. I don't know how serious he is about actually jumping ship and going to a different promoter and leaving the Matchroom stable. I really couldn't say whether that's genuinely what he's trying to do. In one of the interviews that I saw, I think it was either with Ellie Seckbach, ES News, or Fight Hype. I would put the link in the description, but I genuinely can't remember where I saw it. But I did see it. He said how he'd be interested in fighting Dominic Brazil, and going over to PBC would make that opportunity easier for him to get. I touched upon that in my previous video. So he kind of, not only did he say he's a free agent, he kind of spoke openly about what potentially could happen if he was to sign with PBC. He also mentioned about he'd love to come to America and fight and grow his brand in the States. So not only is he saying he's a free agent, he's also kind of giving reasons as to why signing with PBC and Al Heyman could be an attractive prospect for him. So if we just put Frank Warren aside for now, because I honestly I can't see that happening, him going over to Frank Warren. If we put that aside, I just want to kind of add two things to what I said previously. It's been known that Dillian Whyte has the deal that he's had with Matchroom has been on a fight by fight basis. The reason why he's stuck around for so long is, I assume, he's been treated well by Matchroom and they've done right by him. Now he's a little bit disgruntled because he feels that the offer that he got from Matchroom or Joshua wasn't to the standard that he believes he deserves. And one thing that I need to kind of, which is my perception, and I might be wrong, when Eddie Hearn kind of spat out that there was a 60-40 split offer on the table for Fury and Joshua, I don't believe that was the case for Dillian Whyte. So effectively, Eddie Hearn openly kind of admitted that he sees the fight between Joshua and Dillian Whyte as less value. So Dillian Whyte would get less of a piece of the pie. So that might have rubbed Dillian Whyte up the wrong way if he did see that. Because from the interview that Eddie Hearn did with who did he? Perhaps it might have been IFL or one of the American guys. He said 60-40 Fury can have it or 60-40 Wilder can have it, but he never said Dillian Whyte can have 60-40. So that might be a reason why Dillian Whyte is behaving the way he is, because Dillian Whyte quite clearly ranks himself as one of the top 4 heavyweights in the world, and it's hard to argue with him on that front. But another thing that he did say was he believes he's in the same bracket as both Fury and Wilder, and obviously by default Joshua. Another point that Dillian Whyte made was that AJ needs to fight someone big. He needs to fight a big name in his next fight, and he needs to treat the guy that he's going to fight with the respect that they deserve. So he doesn't come from the school of thought that whoever brings most value should get the bigger purse. He kind of feels like AJ needs the opponent as much as the opponent needs AJ, which is why it should be a more equal split in terms of the purses that the fighters take away from that fight. So there's a lot going on with Dillian Whyte, but one thing that stuck out to me was an interview that Eddie Hearn did with IFL, and this was last night. I think it was before the card, the Andrade card last night, and Coogan asked Eddie Hearn about the comments that Dillian Whyte had made about being a free agent, and Eddie Hearn kind of made it clear that Dillian Whyte should do what's right, what he thinks is right for his career. And he basically said, if a fighter doesn't like me, doesn't respect me, doesn't think I'm doing a good job, then I don't want him to stick around. If they think they can get a better deal elsewhere, then more power to them. Which isn't the kind of thing you often hear a promoter say, especially in boxing. And given the value that Dillian Whyte has to Matchroom, he's had 2 pay-per-view events, and we don't have that many in the UK. So Matchroom don't put that many pay-per-views on. The fact that Belly's retired, Dillian Whyte and AJ are the only 2 pay-per-view kind of stars that Matchroom have over in the UK. And if he's happy for one of them to just leave because the fighter wants to, if that makes sense, he's not kicking and screaming and trying to hold him. He's not being kind of held to ransom by Dillian Whyte, because I think the way Eddie Hearn sees things is he feels like he's done a good job for Dillian Whyte. He's made him a load of money, or he's helped make him a load of money, and he's put him in big kind of meaningful fights recently. So it's quite a funny one. So I suppose what I'm trying to say is Eddie Hearn's kind of view, a bit laissez-faire, can be kind of interpreted in two ways. One is he doesn't care about Dillian Whyte, which I don't agree with. I think Eddie Hearn knows how much value Dillian Whyte adds to his stable, and the revenue that Dillian Whyte brings, and the character that he is in boxing. He's a genuinely big name in UK anyway. So I think Eddie Hearn appreciates Dillian Whyte's value, and by the way he was acting, I think Eddie Hearn is confident that Dillian Whyte isn't going anywhere, and I think Dillian Whyte is just playing this game. Well, it's not really a game. Dillian Whyte is just going out there to see what's out there, but I genuinely think Eddie Hearn has got the best kind of framework and structure that for Dillian Whyte in his career at this stage. The only thing that I will say is Dillian Whyte mentioned in one of these interviews again, and one thing that really pisses me off about these American interview or these media outlets that interview boxers and fighters and boxing people in general, why do they always cut up the interviews? It doesn't make sense. Like, just interview someone. If you talk to him for 10 minutes, just put a 10 minute video out there. Don't have like 2 minutes here and 4 minutes there and 3 minutes here and 1.5 minutes there, and you got to sit there and work out, right, which order was this, did this happen in, and they upload it kind of sporadically. Like, it's so annoying. I know they just do it to kind of get more hits and views, etc., and you can't blame them for it because it's their job at the end of the day. But just put out the whole thing, man. Like, do you know what I mean? We're not little kids. We don't need bite-sized chunks of fucking interviews. Like, just give us the whole conversation so we can get a context and a feel of why someone said something. Because sometimes it might be that the guy's asked him something before and it's pissed him off, which has an impact on what he says afterwards. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. Dillian Whyte. So yeah, Eddie Hearn. I feel like Eddie Hearn's confident that Dillian Whyte isn't going anywhere. But it would shake things up a little bit if Dillian Whyte did go elsewhere. The only thing that, oh, sorry, this is what I was actually going to say now that I remembered. In one of those interviews, Dillian Whyte said that he'd only kind of consider a 1 or 2 fight deal. I can't see someone like Al Heyman or PBC or someone else offering him just a 1 or 2 fight deal. I'm assuming here, I'd say they'd probably offer him at least a 3 fight or contract. And also, the carrot on the end of that might be a fight with, I don't know, Deontay Wilder, if he was to sign with PBC. But sometimes these promises don't come to fruition. And when he gets to the end of that deal, and this is so speculative because there's so many moving pieces, it's not happened, etc. But just for argument's sake, if he fought a Dominic Brazil, beat him, if he even fought a Luis Ortiz and beat him, or kind of another top kind of, top 10 heavyweight, and the last fight was meant to be Deontay Wilder. If that doesn't happen, he's banged to rights unless he gets it in writing to say, right, this is the fight you're definitely going to get. And also, in 3 fights is basically a year. A lot can happen in a year. Deontay Wilder could lose his title. We've seen him be vulnerable against Luis Ortiz, and we've seen him be very vulnerable against Tyson Fury. So it's a race against time with Deontay Wilder. I think personally, I think it's only a matter of time until he gets beat. Yeah, so I suppose the point I'm making here is, will PBC offer Dillian Whyte a 1 fight deal? I can't see it. But then again, I don't know every fighter's contract. Maybe he does do deals on a fight-by-fight basis. Yeah, that's kind of my take on the developments with Dillian Whyte. I personally can't see him moving anywhere else. It'd be interesting if he did. I think he's been treated fairly with Eddie Hearn. The fact that he's headlined pay-per-views and he's never been a world champion, That doesn't happen often. Look back, even in the States and here also, obviously, how many times do you see someone be a pay-per-view star that's never won a world title? So the way they've managed to manufacture that situation, um, it's been good. It's commendable, and I'm not saying that it's out of order, etc. Because I bought both. I bought the pay-per-view with Joseph Parker, and I bought the one with Chisora. Dillian Whyte is a good character. He's good for the heavyweight division. I love the way he kind of acts and talks, and he knows boxing. He's not stupid. The fact that he manages himself and he knows how to talk business. I mean, don't let his persona and the fact that he's not afraid to get involved in trash talk. Don't let all of that um, cloud the fact that he's fucking intelligent. He knows what he's doing. He's not just good in the ring. He's good outside the ring as well. So he deserves a lot of credit in White to getting himself in a position that he's in at the moment. Um, yeah, that felt like it was proper, like all over the place. But I hope I made sense. I'm not gonna re-record it because I've got to go out in a bit. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are. Comment all that kind of stuff below, and I will see you next time.